Hi everyone. This lecture will cover decision making in two different parts. The first part, we will talk about decision making with uncertainty and a variety of aspects of that sort of decision making. And in the second part, we will have discussions about decision making with uncertainty, and that involves the use of algorithms and heuristics. So there are two kinds of decisions, as I just mentioned, certainty and uncertainty. So decision making under uncertainty is when you are making a choice from items on a menu and you're fairly certain that the items are available. That's making the decision. You get the option. However, a lot of decision making is more unknown. So you could make a decision about which college to go to or whether or not to propose, and you don't really know what the outcome is going to be. So one way to make decisions when the outcome is unknown is to use what Ben Franklin came up with, which is called the compensatory strategy. And this is basically making a list of pros and cons. So you list all the attributes of a particular item or choice that you're trying to make a decision about. You decide how to weight each item, and then you do a pros and cons to make a decision. So an example would be if you were trying to buy a car, or in this case, you're trying to decide which apartment to move into. And so there are two different building choices. Maybe you've gotten it down to the two. You list features that are really important, and you say that you're going to vary them on a scale of 3 plus or minus. So let's say the things that are important to you is how much the rent is, the noise level, distance from school, how clean the apartments are, if it is in a rough part of town, likelihood of death, or if there's a lot of free beer available. So depending on where you are in your college career, maybe if you're a freshman and you're really looking to meet a lot of people, you don't care about the noise level, and you're really jazzed up about the free beer. Maybe if you are a senior or you're in grad school or you're working a bunch of jobs, those things are less important to you. So you would go through and weigh each of these, and then at the end you look and say, okay, well, given that Campus Point in this case is a +1 and Fernwood in this case is a 0, you would go with Campus Point. However, the question is, do people really make decisions this way? And it seems not so much, because maybe the most important thing to you is the cost of the rent. And if that's the case, then the other things just really don't matter. There's also this sort of minimum criteria idea. This comes up whether it's looking for an apartment or a car, or maybe even just when you're dating somebody, deciding whether or not you should move forward. And so maybe there's a lot of really good things about that individual. However, the most important thing to you in that case is intellect, and maybe you're not so sure that they're as smart as you are. So there's this interesting aspect to decision making, and social psychology talks about this as being an emotional dynamic of decision making. So just like in what I was describing with who you would decide to date, maybe all of these things match up. Maybe that particular person looks really positive. However, there's an emotional piece to it. And so this actually is called cognitive dissonance, when you are making a decision and you're free to choose whichever opportunity is available. However, you have a certain amount of anxiety with a particular choice. And so this particular choice creates this anxiety. This anxiety then is an emotional component to your decision making, which can sway the decision that you make. An example that would be relevant to where you are in your life potentially now is if, let's say, you have a serious relationship with somebody and you've been dating them for many years, and you're making a decision whether or not you should propose or not. At the same time, you are given an opportunity to, let's say, go to grad school, and Georgia State is saying, yes, we will give you a tuition waiver if you come here. However, Princeton is also offering you a tuition waiver. So the difficulty is, do you go with Georgia State, stay here, propose to your significant other who can't leave the state for some family obligation, or do you say goodbye to your significant other and go to Princeton. Well, either one of these is going to give you a sense of loss. So this sense of loss creates this anxiety, and so you have to do something to relieve that. So you can either change the behavior to match an attitude, you can change the attitude to match a behavior, or you can create a whole new attitude to justify a behavior. So for example, with the last one, you could say, well, although I love this particular person, I really want to go to Princeton and we're too young to be committed. So now that would be a new attitude to justify your behavior to go to Princeton. So you have to come up with some sort of rationale in order to relieve this anxiety, which is the cognitive dissonance. So a really interesting study that was done back in the 50s was looking at how much it costs for you to tell a lie. And so Festinger did this study where he would give people either $1 or $20 to be a subject in a study. And you would be in either one of these conditions. If you were a subject performing a boring task, like let's say one of those categorization tests like we've done, where is this particular dot or this item go into an A or a B category. So let's say you're doing that for an hour. So everybody does that. And then where the manipulation is you're asked, so we have somebody else coming in. This is another student, and we want you to now be a Confederate, and we want you to tell this person how interesting this study was that you just did. So basically you're telling a lie, and we're either going to pay you $1 for this or $20 for this lie. And so what they found is that later on, when they asked subjects about their real feelings about the study, those who lied for $1 were much more positive about their actual attitudes about the study. So if you think about that, people are saying, well, I'll say whatever for 20 bucks. And that was back in the 50s. People will say whatever for 20 bucks now in a study. So that's a lot of money. However, if I'm going to lie to somebody for $1, I have to feel better about that lie. So therefore, I'm going to justify my thoughts about the study such that it's more positive, making it less of a lie. So that way I relieve my dissonance.